স্বাচ্ছন্দ্যভাবে ভোট দিলাম।
শর্ট সময়ের মধ্যে ভোট হয়ে গেল, খুব ভালো লাগলো।
আর আমরা সবাই শৃঙ্খলাভাবে ভোট দিয়ে যাইতে আছি।
আর আমি উৎসাহিত হচ্ছে দেখে যে এত লোক সকালে সকালে শীতের সকালে সবাই এসে ভোট দেওয়ার জন্য আগ্রহী।
সকাল থেকে আমি তেমন কোনো খবর পাইনি। এই কেন্দ্রটির অবস্থা বেশ ভালো দেখলাম, যেখানে ভোটাররা ভোট দিতে পারছে।
The 11th National Parliament election, held on December 30th, 2018, was marked by a festive atmosphere across the country. Mainstream media provided updates on the voting progress regularly. Elderly voters reported experiencing a peaceful voting environment, which they had never seen before in their lifetime. Both women and young voters expressed delight after casting their votes, and even the leaders of the BNP-led opposition acknowledged a fair voting system. According to reports from Independent TV, Samoye TV, DBC, and News 24,
এখন তো কোনো সমস্যা দেখতেছি না।
আমার মনে হয় এবার একটা সুন্দর পরিবেশে ভোট হচ্ছে।
আমার নিজের ইচ্ছা মতো দিয়েছি এটা, এবং এখানে কোনো রকম কারো কোনো ইনফ্লুয়েন্স ছিল না।
এই পর্যন্ত এত সুন্দর ভোট আমার লাইফে আমি দেখি নাই।
during the election was met with satisfaction from voters. The elderly voters stated that the EVM was an easy process and would help reduce vote rigging. Young voters also reported being pleased with the fair casting of votes without any obstacles. Female voters stated that the election was taking place peacefully, with no overcrowding due to separate centers and booths.
ফার্স্ট টাইম ভোট, আর আমি বলবো যে ভিতরের পরিস্থিতি অত্যন্ত সুন্দরভাবে হয়েছে এবং আইন শৃঙ্খলা পরিস্থিতিও ছিল অত্যন্ত সুন্দর।
ফার্স্ট টাইম দিচ্ছি যেহেতু, কিন্তু নিজের পছন্দ প্রার্থীকে ভোট দিতে পেরে এটা একটা অন্যরকম অনুভূতি, যেটা আসলে ভাষায় প্রকাশ করার মতন না।
আজকে ভোট দিয়ে মানে ধারণা চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেল।
আমি এখানে ভোট দিতে এসেছি, ভোট দিয়েছি অলরেডি।
আসা যাওয়ার ক্ষেত্রে কোনো ধরনের কোনো বাধার সম্মুখীন হয়েছেন বা নিজের ভোট নিজে দিতে পেরেছেন?
হ্যাঁ, আমি আমার ভোট দিতে পেরেছি এবং কখনো কোথাও বাধা আসেনি, ভালোভাবে ভোট দিতে পেরেছি।
খুব সুষ্ঠুভাবে ভোট হচ্ছে এবং সুন্দরভাবে ভোটাধিকার প্রয়োগ করতে পেরেছি আমরা।
ঠেলাঠেলি ধাক্কাধাক্কি অনেক কিছু, কিন্তু এইবার খুব সুন্দর সুস্থভাবে ভোট দিলাম। সকালবেলা ভোটটা দিয়ে মানে চিন্তামুক্ত।
However, after realizing the defeat, BNP Jamaat candidates caused chaos in different places. The BNP Secretary General said that these candidates individually announced their boycott of the elections. At 5 p.m., Mirza Fakhrul told TV channels that the boycott was a personal decision, not a party decision. Earlier, opposition party leaders and activists conducted election campaigns freely across the country without any hindrances.
বিভিন্ন স্থানে বিএনপি ঐক্যফ্রন্ট নেতাদের ভোট বর্জনের সিদ্ধান্ত প্রার্থীদের ব্যক্তিগত জানালেন মির্জা ফখরুল। উদ্বেগ ডক্টর কামালের।
BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir held several public meetings in North Bengal from December 26th and encouraged supporters to go to polling stations. After casting his vote, Dr. Kamal Hussain told News 24 that he was optimistic about the number of people who came out to vote, despite the cold weather. He stated that he was happy with the fair voting process, but would wait for the election results to decide if he would accept them. On this day, Mirza Fakhrul also described the voting environment in Thakurgaon as free, fair, and beautiful, stating that, if people can vote, there will be a ballot revolution.
সকাল থেকেই দেখছি যে আপনারা আমাদের ভোটাররা, নারী পুরুষ, তারা লম্বা কিউ দিয়ে ভোট দিচ্ছেন। আমি এখন সবগুলো যতগুলো পারি আমি সবগুলোই এখন আমি দেখব। আশা করছি আজকে এখানে যেটা দেখলাম আপনার যে আমাদের ভোটাররা যেভাবে আসছেন ভোটাররা যে ভোট দিতে পারেন, তাহলে আমরা সবসময় বলেছি যে তাহলে নিঃসন্দেহে আপনার একটা ভোট বিপ্লব ঘটবে।
However, when the results of the polls came in the evening, the BNP Jamaat leaders realized their defeat by a large margin. Since then, Mirza Fakhrul and Dr. Kamal Hussain have started spreading propaganda about the election, despite their earlier satisfaction with the election environment. Please note that the views expressed by the BNP Jamaat leaders before and during the election period were positive, but changed after realizing their defeat. But what else did they do before that? Let's look at news reports published in the national media. Voting was conducted smoothly in over 40,000 polling stations across 299 constituencies, with close monitoring from law enforcement agencies, media outlets, and domestic and foreign observers. However, before the election, BNP Jamaat terrorists engaged in acts of violence, attacking law enforcement personnel and stealing ballots. In Banchkali of Chittagong, Jamaat vandalized a polling station and attacked police vehicles, injuring 3 officers and stealing firearms. In the Nateshwar center of the NOA-KHALI-2 constituency, BNP supporters looted ballot papers and injured 6 people during an attack on a polling station. In Daulatpur of Kusha, BNP Jamaat activists beat an ANSA member to death and attacked police vans in Kamilla while trying to occupy a polling station. Whenever violence occurred during the Election Commission promptly suspended voting. As a result, voting was postponed in 16 centers across 12 constituencies due to election-related violence. Furthermore, 11 Awami League leaders and activists were killed by the BNP Jamaat alliance during attacks on polling stations, and 1 BNP Jamaat supporter died in a clash with Awami League activists. BNP Jamaat extremists attempted to disrupt the peaceful voting process that took place across the country on December 30th. In their effort to capture the election office in Tanor of Rajshahi, BNP Jamaat activists engaged in vandalism, leaving Modassar Ali, the Ward Awami League General Secretary, dead. They also hacked another Awami League man, Mirazul Islam, to death near a polling station in Mohanpur Upazila of Rajshahi. In Chandnesh of Chittagong, 6 people were injured in an attack by BNP Jamaat, while Jubo League leaders Badshah and Khalid suffered bullet injuries in Lohagar. BNP Jamaat also set fire to the homes of Awami League leaders and activists in the NOA-KHALI-2 constituency. The police at a polling centre in Behrab of Kishoreganj were fired upon. In SIIAJGANJ2, BNP Jamaat miscreants vandalised election booths and homes of Awami League supporters, causing injury to 5 individuals, including Saiful Islam, the office secretary of the district Switch Hazebok League. In Datapara of Lakshmipur, a Chhatra League member was killed, and another one was injured in a shooting attack by BNP Jamaat activists. Basir Uddin, General Secretary of Gagara Union Jubo League, was killed, and 11 others were injured in an attack by BNP in Kaukali Upazila of Rangamati. Sohul and Masoom of Chhatra League were beaten and injured in Ketlal Upazila of Joypahat, and a petrol bomb attack was carried out in Sitakunda. The homes of Awami League leader Saiful Islam in Panchagar and the Awami League party office in Bagahat were set on fire. Awami League's election agent, Milan MIA, was also hacked to death in Narzingdai. BNP Jamaat men killed 4 Awami League supporters in Cox's Bazar, Ghazipur, Bogra, and Rangamati. On the night before the election, 5 Awami League supporters were killed in a BNP Jamaat attack. The BNP Jamaat alliance's attempt to create fear and prevent minorities from voting by setting fire to their homes failed due to the vigilance of law enforcement agencies. On December 15th, 4 homes in Alampur village of Bogadana Union Parashad of Sonagazi Upazila in Feni were burnt with petrol. On December 11th, there was a bomb and shooting incident at the home of Awami League President Jagdish Sahar in Dukuria of Sirajganj Sadar Upazila. On December 21st, miscreants set fire to Krishna Ghosh's house in Singhia Shahapara village of Jagannathpur Union of Takorgaon Sadar Upazila, the constituency of BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam, reported German-based radio Deutsche Welle. On December 21st, the house of Krishna Ghosh in Singhia Shahapara village of Jagannathpur Union of Takorgaon Sadar Upazila was set on fire. This tactic of intimidating minorities from voting was used previously in 2014 and 2015 when BNP activists hurled petrol bombs and burnt vehicles in the area. Despite such efforts, the law enforcers remained alert on voting day, foiling the BNP Jamaat alliance's attempt to sabotage the election. The 11th National Assembly elections in Bangladesh received positive feedback from foreign observers and analysts. The few isolated incidents of violence were much less compared to those in the previous elections. Out of the 40,000 polling stations, 22 stations, including Noakhali, received reports of irregularities. On December 30th, foreign observer Tanya Foster, a Canadian citizen and representative of the SARC Human Rights Foundation, visited several polling stations in the capital and reported a festive atmosphere. The US Ambassador, Robert Earl Miller, and other US observers also praised the fair environment of the polling stations they visited. The British High Commissioner, Alison Blake, and the Foreign Observer Team also praised the polling environment in media interviews. A 5-member observer team from Canada, India, and Nepal visited several polling stations and concluded that Bangladesh had never had such a peaceful election before. Hamid Opalayeru, the head of the observation team from the OIC and SAARC countries, stated that the election was of international standard and that all parties participated. The SAARC Human Rights Foundation reported that the election was free, fair, and transparent. Japan welcomed the participation of all parties in the national parliamentary elections and regarded it as a positive result of the efforts of all concerned. The European Union was unable to send observers due to a lack of preparation, but representatives from Canada and Britain observed the elections on their behalf. However, 3 months later, US State Department official Robert Palladino made a politically motivated statement that the vote was not fair. Despite this comment, he praised the economic development under the leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina and stated that he would continue to work with the government and opposition parties. The BNP Jamaat alliance caused widespread fear among the public during their regime through rampant extortion, land grabbing, violence against women, looting, unbridled corruption, and the persecution of minorities. From 2013 to 2015, the leaders and activists of the alliance carried out terrorist activities such as arson, killing children and women, students, and working people by throwing petrol bombs, setting homes on fire, etc. The memories of their terrible acts are still vivid in people's minds, and as a result, the leaders and activists of the BNP Jamaat were unable to seek support from the masses. The party also experienced significant internal division, which further weakened its organizational structure. The BNP failed to provide polling agents in many areas. Despite their past and recent failures, the top leaders of the BNP Jamaat attempted to win the election through various means. They previously relied on muscle and gunpower to win elections, but that strategy failed in the 2018 elections due to the vigilant posture of law enforcement forces. After the defeat was confirmed, they held a press conference claiming that the vote was not fair. On December 30th, during the voting, BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul and alliance spokesperson Dr. Kamal initially stated that the polls were proceeding smoothly, but their positions changed in the evening. They introduced a conspiracy theory called the night vote. However, the leaders and activists of both parties were present at the polling stations throughout the night and even tried to occupy the polling center, resulting in the death of an Awami League leader and injuries to the police. Sajid Wais Joy commented after the BNP Jamaat sabotage night before the election, "All polls indicate that the BNP Jamaat has no chance of winning, so they are killing our people." Over the past few months, efforts have been made to make the election controversial. They have carried out extensive lobbying efforts abroad. The Research and Development Center conducted an opinion survey before the 11th parliamentary election on December 30, 2018. The survey, conducted by US consultant Forrest E. Cookson on behalf of the RDC, indicated that the Awami League-led alliance was poised to win 248 seats, while the Jatiya Oikya Front, which includes BNP, was predicted to win 49 seats. Sajid Wais Joy, the information technology advisor to Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, also cited an RDC survey, writing on his Facebook page on December 13 that 66% of the respondents had confidence in the Awami League. Upon seeing the pre-election public opinion, the leaders and activists of BNP Jamaat became nervous about the defeat in the elections and resorted to sabotage, ordering their followers to carry out terrorist activities centered around the polls. The defeat of the BNP in the 11th general elections in Bangladesh has been attributed to various factors by political analysts, including organizational weakness, lack of strong leadership, failure to provide qualified candidates, internal conflict within the party, failure to provide agents, inaction by senior leaders, insufficient public communication, nomination of war criminals in the month of victory, multiple nominations in certain constituencies, neglect of publicity campaigns and failure to place their manifesto to the public. The senior leaders of the Bangladesh National Party, BNP, were preoccupied with their own elections, causing their party candidates to receive inadequate guidance. Just before the election, many candidates withdrew due to the absence of central instructions. BNP leaders and candidates repeatedly urged activists and voters to attend their campaigns. However, few showed up. The lack of attendance from leaders and candidates resulted in dissatisfaction among ordinary voters, causing many to skip the polling stations, ultimately affecting the election outcome. The absence of leaders and activists in the election field was cited as one of the reasons for the BNP's defeat, as their counterparts in the ruling party were actively present. Candidates in many constituencies were not present in election campaigns, particularly in the capital, where only a few made any public appearances. This caused a disconnect between voters and BNP candidates, further impacting their election performance. The party's inability to provide polling agents was another factor in their poor showing. In the 2018 election, they were unable to provide agents in most centers, and those assigned failed to attend. BNP's nomination of war criminals in the month of victory was not well received by conscious citizens, including the civil society, which harmed the election results. Despite mass campaigns, BNP failed to attract voters, as they had no connection with Jatiya Oikya Front leaders and workers. In contrast, Sheikh Hasina, president of Awami League, held public meetings with senior leaders, while BNP and its alliance did not. Internal conflict within the party also contributed to their defeat. Activists argue that the party nominated inexperienced and inactive individuals, negatively impacting the election field. The nomination of opportunists and businessmen, instead of deserving candidates, sparked negative reactions within the party. The most surprising thing is, BNP's decision to nominate multiple candidates in the same constituencies confused supporters. We are giving primary nominations to 2 candidates in each seat based on the principled decision. If one fails, the other gets a chance. This statement from Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir was perceived as a trade in the nomination process, leading to frustration among BNP supporters who felt disengaged from the party leading up to the polling day on December 30th. At the last minute, BNP Jamaat candidates resorted to distributing cash, having failed to win the election through acts of terror and chaos, and tampering with the voting process through the rigging. However, some of their leaders were also caught by law enforcement while trying to buy votes illegally. On polling day, reports stated that 23 individuals were apprehended by law enforcement for buying votes for Salma Islam, an independent candidate backed by BNP in the Dhaka 1 constituency in Dhaka. Furthermore, a district BNP member and Upazila vice chairman, Monawara Begum, was caught with money while attempting to purchase votes in the Netrokona 4 constituency. In an effort to conceal their misdeeds and internal conflicts, BNP Jamaat devised a plan to distract the public from the defeat in the elections. They fabricated the idea of night voting. However, on the eve of the election, they attempted to take control of polling centers with armed forces and attacked police, Ansar, and Awami League activists. 6 Awami League leaders and activists lost their lives and 12 members of law enforcement were injured. Despite their attempts to rig the ballot boxes, their efforts were in vain and they ultimately resorted to distributing money. The night voting conspiracy was a tactic used by BNP Jamaat to distract the public from the crimes of rape, murder, extortion, and arson that took place across the country. Jamaat, a known extremist group, has been misleading the public with similar conspiracies since independence. The leaders of the BNP Jamaat alliance have followed in their footsteps. It is crucial for the ordinary people to understand that night voting does not exist and it is merely an attempt to erase the heinous history of BNP Jamaat's acts of murder, rape, extortion, land grabbing, and arson from the public's memory.